Thank you, Speaker. I rise to speak in support of the Crimes, Domestic and Personal Violence and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2026. This bill is necessary because the law must be stronger than the tactics of those who use fear, surveillance and control to harm others. The findings of the New South Wales Crime Commission's Project Hakea report make the need for reform impossible to ignore. It showed that tracking and surveillance devices are being misused in organised crime and domestic and family violence to stalk, harass, intimidate and control. That is not a minor regulatory issue. It is a serious threat to safety, privacy and public confidence. When technology is being weaponised in this way, the answer cannot be hesitation or half measures. The answer must be clear laws, clear accountability and stronger protection for those at risk. Speaker, organised crime is increasingly exploiting technology to plan, coordinate and conceal criminal activity. Using tools such as encrypted communications, tracking devices, spyware and other forms of surveillance to target rivals, evade police detection and control victims. These technologies can be used to facilitate serious offences including drug trafficking, kidnapping and violence, while also creating new risks in domestic and family violence contexts through covert monitoring, stalking and intimidation. As technology becomes cheaper, more accessible and more sophisticated, the law must keep pace to ensure law enforcement has the powers needed to disrupt criminal networks and protect the community from technology-enabled harm. Technology has changed the way domestic abuse is carried out, but it has not changed the damage it does. Victim survivors are still left feeling watched, cornered and unsafe. Perpetrators are still using every tool available to intimidate, track and control. This Parliament cannot allow the law to lag behind while the harm continues. We have a responsibility to act, and this bill is part of that response. At its heart, this bill is about drawing a firm line. It says that stalking is stalking, whether it is done in person, through a device, in secret, or by directing someone else to do it for you. It says that using technology to deepen coercion and fear will not be excused because the method is modern. And it says that victim survivors should not have to wait for the law to catch up before they are properly protected. These reforms are practical, but they're also principled. They put safety first, but they put responsibility where it belongs, squarely on the offender. One important part of the bill is that it makes clear a person cannot dodge responsibility by getting someone else to do the stalking for them. Abuse is not less serious because it is outsourced. It is not less harmful because it is indirect. For the victim, the intrusion, fear and loss of safety are exactly the same. This reform closes that loophole and sends a simple message. If you set the conduct in motion, you are responsible for it. The bill also confronts covert stalking, conduct that may be happening while the victim has no idea it is taking place. That is what makes it so insidious. Hidden tracking, spyware and covert monitoring are not minor intrusions. They are profound violations of privacy that can entrench coercive control, deepen fear and pave the way for further abuse. The law must treat that conduct with the seriousness it deserves, and this reform does exactly that. The bill also strengthens the law around the misuse of surveillance devices by recognising a basic reality. The harm does not stop once the device is installed. It continues every time a person is monitored without consent, every time their movements are tracked and every time the information is used to intimidate or control them. If the law is serious about protecting people, it must be able to respond to the full scope of that conduct, and this bill gives it that clarity. The bill also sends a strong overdue message that there is no place for advertising that encourages the unlawful use of surveillance devices. Businesses should not be able to market products in a way that normalises secret monitoring or trivialises the harm it can cause. There is nothing harmless about selling covert surveillance as a convenience. There is nothing acceptable about profiting from conduct that can enable abuse. This reform draws that line clearly and says that those who promote unlawful surveillance will face consequences. This bill also strengthens the integrity of the security industry by ensuring domestic violence offending is taken seriously in decisions about who should be able to work in what environment. That is not optional. It is common sense. Roles in the security industry can involve access to equipment, information, and positions of trust. The law should not ignore the risk that such access can be misused. This reform is about protecting the public and making it clear that domestic violence offending has real consequences. Importantly, this is a targeted and proportionate bill. It is not overreach to close a loophole. It is not overreach to respond to serious evidence-based harm. And it is not overreach to ensure that the law reflects the way abuse is actually being carried out in 2026. This bill modernises the law in a careful but determined way because doing nothing or doing too little would mean leaving victim survivors exposed, and this issue is not abstract for communities like Penrith. Recent local reporting drawing on New South Wales Bureau of Research and Crime Statistics showed that domestic violence-related assault incidents in Penrith rose significantly over the year to March 2024 and even further since then, and that stalking, intimidation and harassment involved more than 1,000 female victims in that same period. Those figures are not just statistics, they represent fear in people's homes, insecurity in people's daily lives, and harm carried by families across our community. For Penrith, these reforms are not theoretical, they are necessary and they matter. For victim survivors of domestic and family violence, these reforms will make a real difference. Technology facilitated abuse can be relentless. It can make a person feel watched and at all times unsure of who knows their location, their movements and their communications. And that is long after the relationship has ended. These reforms will also help police and justice system respond more effectively. Clearer laws mean harmful conduct can be identified earlier. This bill is necessary, it's measured and it's overdue. It responds to evidence, strengthens protection for victim survivors and closes loopholes that make accountability harder to avoid. And it is for that reason, Speaker, that I support and commend the bill to the House.